More than a century ago, in the small community of French Creek, near Buchanan, lived a tall, slim man by the name of Ben Withers. He was better known as Hank the Shank, or just plain Butch, because by trade he had been a butcher. When the state put a bounty on timber wolves, he gave up butchering cattle and turned his attention to killing wolves. After he began to hunt, he bought himself a small cabin deep in the woods about 5 miles away from the community. He kept a cow and a couple of pigs, which he let run loose in the forest. Before he started hunting, he had spent all his time in the French Creek General Store, but for the next several years after becoming a hunter, he was only rarely seen by the people in the community, to the point that most considered him a hermit. He would only come to town about once a month for supplies, and it was always about 9 o'clock at night. For 5 years, he did nothing but hunt wolves, averaging more than 500 kills per year. For each pelt he collected and turned in, he received a bounty of $10. When you add this up, it's better than $5,000 per year, which back in those days was very good pay. After 5 years, he had thinned out the wolf population so much that they had almost become extinct. The few that were left had become so smart and wary that they were never seen. So again, Ben started spending a great deal of his time in the general store and become familiar again in the community. He would come into the store when it opened in the morning and wouldn't leave until it closed in the evening. He would just sit around, chew his tobacco, whittle on a piece of wood, and talk about the weather and how things used to be. Most of all, he liked to talk about his hunting expeditions to anyone who cared to listen. Everything went well for the next few years. Then one afternoon, a man came running into the store, telling of a white wolf killing 2 of his sheep. He claimed that he had shot the wolf 3 times, but the bullets didn't seem to harm it. Several times that week there were animals killed, and several times the wolf was shot, but bullets seemed to have no effect on it. When the people found they couldn't hurt the wolf or keep it from killing their stock, they called on Ben to see if he could do something about it. However, he refused to hunt the animal because he said the wolves had made him rich, and he had sworn never to harm another one. The white wolf went on killing unhindered for the next 2 weeks until one night it killed Ben's pet cow. This was a fatal mistake for the wolf, because Ben was so angry that he forgot all about the promise to never harm another wolf and swore he was going to get revenge. The next morning he went to town, bought a young lamb, and headed for the hills. He went back into the mountains a good way and tied the lamb to a tree for bait. Then he backed off about 50 yards and sat down under another tree to keep his eye out. A few days later, when Ben failed to return, the townspeople set out to search for him. They found him sitting dead against the same tree with teeth marks in his throat, while the lamb was still tied to the other tree unharmed. The soft dirt around him didn't have a track in it besides Ben's own, and there was no sign of a struggle. After that, the white wolf was never seen again, and no more livestock was killed. However, there are those who say that on a clear night when the moon is full, they can hear an unmistakable howling from a distant ridge.